All right, so here we have the elasticity of demand. So I kind of talked about that a little bit in 8.6 because the way the graph was showing, and we'll see that here in another slide or two. But basically, if we let the price P and demand X for a product be related by a price demand equation in the form X equals F of P, then our elasticity of demand at price P is denoted by E of P. Okay, so that's going to be our elasticity at the price P, and it's going to be a negative of the relative rate of change of demand divided by the relative rate of change of price. So that's going to be what it is. And what does that mean? Well, if we write that down into an equation here, if the price and demand are related by X equals F of P, then the elasticity of demand is given by E of P equals a negative P times F prime of P divided by F of P. So that's going to be what our equation we're going to be using to solve these equations is. Now, depending on what E of P is, depends on if we have different kinds of elasticity. So there are three types. There's inelastic demand, there's elastic demand, and there's unit elasticity. And so what we see is if we have something between 0 and 1 for our E of P, not equal to them, that's inelastic. So demand is not sensitive to changes in price. That is, the price change in price produces a smaller percentage change in demand. So a price increase will actually increase your revenue. That's the key takeaway here. Now, if E of P is greater than 1, so 2 or 4 or whatever it turns out to be, then it's elastic for demand. And the demand is sensitive to changes in price. That is, a percentage change in price produces a larger percentage change in demand. Now, basically, for revenue, a price increase is going to decrease your revenue. So that's what's going to happen there. So we're kind of going to be on the downslope here. So on this one, we're on the downslope. The other one, we're kind of going up. Now at 1, that's going to be kind of like our peak of our thing. Our demand is 1. So unit percent change in price produces the same percent change in demand. So that's going to be kind of like a 1-to-1. So that's kind of how that one is. So let's look at that in some example here as far as, what do we get? How do we do calculations, things like that. So if we remember, we had E of P, which is what we're supposed to calculate, find the E of P, that's going to be a negative P times F prime of P divided by F of P. And depending on if it was between 0 and 1, it's one thing, greater than 1 is another one, and equal to 1 is another thing. So what we need to do is we need to actually find this equation. And then after that, we need to plug in three values for P. P equal 8, P equals 30, and P equals 20. So E of P equals what? Well, we're going to have a minus P times. Now, if we take the derivative of this, then we're going to get what? Well, sometimes, it might be easier to think about this as, distributing. And so that's going to be 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 minus 1,000 P. So it might be easier to look at it that way instead of having to have it out in front. But in any case, the derivative of this is going to be what? Well, it's just going to be minus 1,000. And then that's all over 1,000 times 40 minus P. Now I'm just going to leave it like that because then I can see that if I have those 2,000s, they cancel. The plus is going to happen here because we have a minus times a minus. So let's cancel this. We have a minus times a minus is plus. 1,000 cancels here. And so now what do we actually get? We get E of P is equal to P over 40 minus P. So that's just for the example here. Now, there are going to be all kinds of different equations we could have, but this is this example. So for A, we want E of 8. So that's going to be 8 over 40 minus 8. So 8 divided by 32, that's going to be 1/4. And if we go back to our chart, if we can't remember, that's going to be inelastic demand. Okay. Now B. Now we're going to plug in 30. So we're going to get 30 over 40 minus 30. So that's going to be 30 over 10. So that's going to be what? 3? Well, if I remember right, that's going to be, elastic demand because that's greater than 1. So that's elastic. And C, I'm going to bet that that's going to be unity just because I'm sure they're going to give us all the same ones. So 20 over 40 minus 20, that's going to give us 1, and that's unit elasticity. Okay. And again, what does that mean? Well, the inelastic, that means the price increase is going to increase our revenue. The next one, elastic, that means a price increase is going to decrease our revenue. And the next one is going to be a same percentage change in demand as that. Okay, so that's going to be what we have. And again, it all stemmed from finding minus P times the derivative of f of P over f of P. And then we reduced it, and then we had a simple equation. We can plug in our three values. All right, so let's stop there and we'll come back for more.